our parents as far as some things that's going on with them and what we can do to support you once the school year opens. This is a time of uncertainty, and we don't necessarily know what everything is going to look like in August. So I don't have a lot of answers. But what I do have is a pencil and a pad, and I can write on that. And we also have our board secretary, Mrs. Bussett, who's going to also take notes as well too, and take it back to our governing board. What I want to basically happen is, so when we open up in August, I get a feel for what the parents want to see and what their concerns are. I put out already 3 focus questions. Those 3 main questions that I'm gonna get feedback or just basically listen from you on are: number 1, now, what are your greatest fears as far as opening up in August? The second one is more of a personal one, so we can understand our families as far as how has COVID-19 affected you personally in terms of your family, whether it may have affected you as it relates to employment or health or whatever the case may be. And the third one is, what do you want to see from an educational standpoint from your scholars? So, but before we do that and give you an opportunity to speak and me listen, because this is basically about me just listening to you all and not necessarily me standing up and talking the whole time, the first thing is, I do know that the district has allowed not just our school, but other schools as well too, to have 2 dates for graduations. We do have 8th grade graduation, VPK graduation, and kindergarten graduation. We've had those for the last couple of years. We're going to continue to have them. So what has been provided would be a June date as well as a July date. And the reason why there's 2 separate dates is we wait on guidance from the CDC to determine which date works best for us in terms of how things continue to settle down as it relates to the spread of the virus. The kindergarten graduations, the 2 dates, the June date is June 18th, and the July date is July the 16th. For our VPK scholars, the June date is June 17th and July 15th. For our 8th grade scholars, the June date is a Saturday. We always had our graduation on a Saturday for 8th graders. Will be June the 20th or July the 18th. So those are the dates we're looking at. We'll wait on guidance from the CDC to see which one of those works best for the current situation we're in as far as where we are with the spread. One other housekeeping note I wanted to cover as well too. Starting on Tuesday, we once again will be doing the hot lunches in the car loop. As you know, for the past 4 weeks or so, I would say, the school district has been providing the prepackaged meals because of the fact that the National School Lunch Program didn't approve us for the meals then, but we reapplied. We've been approved for the hot meals. So those have they've been coming before, and you see the pre-packages coming. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to have the hot lunches. We'll still have the breakfast. The breakfast will be something that'll be pre-packaged, but the lunches will be hot to go and ready then. Just pop your trunk and let us know how many scholars you have, and we'll be doing the hot lunches from here on out, which is a good thing because I know a lot of our parents have missed those hot lunches when we had to transition to the district. So I'm glad that we're going to be able to provide that again starting on Tuesday after Labor Day. You missed those hot lunches, huh? The twins missed them. All right. The next date is May 28th. So if anybody has a scholar in 3rd through 8th grade, that is the date that you return your laptops, May 28th. And that's be brought up to Mr. Bryan. Mr. Bryan, you're going to start that at what time? 10 a.m.? 10 a.m. to turn the laptops in. Just so you know, from our standpoint, as far as what we are doing here, is that we are cleaning and disinfecting our classes weekly. And we all know, based on what the science is, that the virus doesn't last on hard surfaces more than 4 or 5 hours or so. But we're still taking that step to still clean. Even though nobody's in there at all, no one is in the classes at all, we're still cleaning them anyway because we want to make sure that everything is clean. We have updated our disinfectant products based on guidance we received from the health department. So we have additional disinfectant products that we're using that is safe for schools. Before we were not allowed to use bleach, but there is a new bleach solution that we are using that helps it it helps kill the virus even faster. So, like for instance, this particular room here, every single chair, every single doorknob has been cleaned, and we're trying to get ourselves in that mindset of this, for lack of a better term, the new normal, as far as us being able to make sure everything is clean for our scholars. And there's a lot of things that have been out there in terms of what the school year is going to look like, but there's nothing definitive in that regard. But there are going to have to be some adjustments. One of the things we're going to have to adjust to and be cognizant of is the social distancing. Me, myself, I love scholars. I am the most huggingest person in the world. But I also have to understand, too, that even though the research shows that if I were for some reason to transition the virus, if I had it and transition into a scholar in third or fourth grade, the research shows they're probably going to be fine because of their immune system. But that doesn't mean they can't take it home to somebody that has a compromised immune system or someone that is over 65. So we all have to be conscious and try to adjust to that new normal as it relates to social distancing, which is going to be difficult. But if we truly, truly love our scholars and we truly love the families that we're serving, we're going to have to make some adjustments in that regard. Because even though the scholars are young and healthy, they may not have any symptoms. They may be what's called asymptomatic and not have any symptoms, but still be a carrier of the virus. And if they was to go home to somebody that may have a compromised immune system, because so many of our scholars are in contact with grandparents. And that's one of the things we got to be cautious of, that they could take that home. So we got to make sure we're doing everything we can to stop the spread. And one of that is going to be to having more stricter guidelines as it relates to social distancing. We are cleaning a lot more and more often. There are some proposed schools of thought that I'll share with you in terms of in August. One of the biggest things that we got to look at as far as how we're going to do the school buses. At this particular time here, realistically, there's no way to socially distance yourself on a full bus. So we may have to look at different options in terms of more than one bus route, as far as the bus going out and reaching a specific capacity, so we can have a certain number of seats in between the scholars. But it's still something that's still being discussed, because even with a certain number of seats, the bus is a very, very closed area. And even with the windows open, things continue to, the drops can continue to circulate. Other things we're looking at is how we're going to do the perhaps lunches in the classroom, so there's not a big gathering place in the cafeteria for everybody to be at one time, as far as how things look as it relates to recess and how we interact during recess, whether or not there is going to be recess and how that would affect everyone. Also, the size of the classes. One of the things I'll be doing on Tuesday, I'll be meeting with our general contractor through Peak Construction to determine if we can get another building done between now and the time we open up. And what that would serve as is if we have to decrease our class sizes by, instead of going from 20 to 18 scholars in a class, we're going to have 10 scholars in the class. We're going to need more facility space. So those are some of the things we're planning for as a possibility. Another possibility is that we may have school in shifts, from the standpoint of if one group of scholars, like if, say for instance, we have 370 scholars at Emma only half of them may come from 8 to 12, and then another half come from 12 to 3 or something along those lines. That way we have enough facility capacity to space everybody out so that we can serve everybody in a safe manner. So those, and also to continue some of the distance learning virtually, what have you. So there's a lot of things up in the air. As I said before, I don't have a lot of answers, and I'm not here to provide answers. My goal here is to provide an ear to you all to kind of see what your concerns are, so that we can kind of be prepared for what we need to do as we move forward. So what I'm going to do, we have a small select group here, which is good and intimate, but I'm going to let Mr. Bryan pass the microphone around, and that way we can focus on those three questions in terms of the first one is, what is your fear as far as opening up for the school year? And the second one would have been, how has COVID-19 affected you? And as well as your educational concerns. There you go. And then I'm going to write, and our board secretary is going to write. So at this particular point here, we're just going to listen. And you can also take the mask off if you're using the microphone, because we're going to clean the microphone in between, whatever. So feel free to take the mask off. That makes it easy for you to talk, so it's not muffled. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. When the kids do return back to school, and they're transitioning from one class to another, are they going to disinfect the area where they were, like for the other kids to come back?
If I'm understanding the question properly, you were saying that when they come back or whatever, as far as the ratio of cleaning, whatever ratio of cleaning is going to be, once an area is used, it will have to be cleaned. So we want to make sure that everyone is safe. So we will have specific more guidance in terms of that ratio. I don't have it now off the top of my head, but one of the things that has also been discussed is that there wouldn't be any transitioning.
Oh,
Would
it
be a
won't?
situation where the scholars will stay in the same classroom all day long. So that's one of the things that's discussed as well too.
Okay.
And also, I guess the other one, if you wanted to share how the COVID has affected you and what are your concerns educationally?
Well, the COVID affected me a lot. It's like at the beginning, for my hours at work, slowed down, then they boosted up. Um, the kids were, at home doing work, whatever, by themselves. Nope, I'm not there. I don't know, it just affected me.
And I think one of the things that I was gathering as well too is that some parents may have concerns as we move forward is a big thing in terms of childcare. Because of the fact, I think what you just kind of mentioned to me is the fact that you have to work to put food on the table to
Yeah.
provide for your kid. And with this shutdown or what have you, there's no supervision because you still have to work. Once
Yes.
school starts back, we're going to have to look at creative ways. If we were to do a flex schedule, I'm pretty sure wherever it is you work, there's no 4-hour schedule for you. It's an 8-hour schedule.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of your scholars coming to school for 4 hours and then all of a sudden you miraculously have childcare. So those are some of the things we got to look at as well too moving forward.
Okay, that's all I can think of right now.
Being that I work with youth, I continued to work with the youth during the summer, but during the spring. It wasn't summer. So I didn't lose my thirst for teaching and learning and that thing. But personally, I saw a doctor because I was accustomed to getting up, preparing my day, going through my day, coming home, then having other things to do. And I kept feeling disconnected somehow. And I was going through a mild portion of depression. And as African Americans, we can't admit, and I'm a Bible reader daily. I have, I would say, my faith strongly in place, but we're human. And when you're out of your normal, natural rhythm, and I'm a very routine kind of person, I have structure. All of that was disconnected for me. So I saw a doctor. He gave me a medication to help me mildly, and I'm not afraid to admit that I did the research, and it did help me through some of that. But going back to school, I was one of those teachers who I kept the sanitizer on my desk, and I kept my wipes, and I was always wiping and giving wipes to the kids naturally because they catch colds, they have allergies, and I'm in the system, so I had those kind of thinking process in place. But more than anything, I would just want us to understand that our children are hurting. Our children are hurting. They may not know how to express it. They miss associating with one another. They miss talking and just seeing one another. So coming back, it's going to be a task to keep them apart. It is definitely going to be a task. But I look forward to them smiling again, talking to each other, laughing, playing. They miss all that. Sure, they may play at the house with their brothers and sisters, their siblings, but it wasn't like school. And we had gotten them structured, and all of that was just shut down, cut off. So I'm concerned about their emotional and mental states.
You know, and thank you for sharing on a personal note, but let me say this too. One of the things that you just made me think of, what have you, is that this past Friday, we had one of our scholars, an eighth grade scholar, her parent came out there. She said that, Mr. Cole, she put on her entire uniform. She just wanted to come up here today and just take a picture with everybody. So she put on her uniform, that full uniform, just to come up here and take pictures. And so that's part one of what have you, as far as that connection. And I think, and Ms. Bart may have stepped out for a second, but you just made me realize, based on your comment, something else that we also have to be prepared for is the mental health of our scholars when they get back. Because you're saying that they may be affected emotionally and may need some mental health support because this has been big. Because of the fact we may not know what's going on. Put it like this: before COVID-19, every single scholar that walked into our doors had a story to tell. They had a family. They had some challenges. And I think that anytime a pandemic or something like this hits, it hits the minority communities 10 times. So the things that they may go through may be 10 times more than what it was before. Almost for lack of a better term, whatever social factors they were going through before may be now on steroids when they get back. Because we don't know what they have seen, what they have endured, or what they have faced while they have been at home. And we don't know what their refrigerator have looked like during that period of time. So we also have to be prepared for the mental health aspect of it. So we'll make sure that Mrs. Barton is ready to receive the scholars and be able to make the proper referrals to any scholar that needs mental health. And I, like you, am a religious person as well too, and I do believe in praying, and I believe that God answers prayers. But while you're also getting those, while you're also praying, you also need to begin some therapy if necessary, and seeing that mental health therapist because of the fact that it is there. I believe they say that God can move mountains with prayer, but while you are praying, you also need to be pushing. And a lot of times, pushing means going to see that therapist and not having that mindset of 60 years ago that you're just going to pray away the hate, pray away the pain, because it's not going to work that way. So we're going to go to and thank you very much for sharing. We're going to go ahead and go to our next question so we can make sure everyone has an opportunity to share. Thank you so much. Is your daughter okay?
She's having an episode over here. So
do we need to do anything that we can pause this? Do we need to do anything to help her?
She's drinking some juice now. And,
okay.
And plus, she's about to freeze over here. She forgot to
okay, we can turn that.
She forgot to bring her jacket.
We can turn this off. We can turn this off. We can turn it off. Not a problem at all.
Okay.
All the air is off.
Okay. But anyway, first question, yes, I was affected indirectly by COVID. I had a classmate that passed from this disease.
Oh my goodness, my
condolences. A couple of weeks ago. And it was a tragic type situation. And you know, you can't say your goodbyes and you can't go visit, you can't do funerals or anything like that, you know. We saw the consequences of what happened to the funeral that they had in Georgia, where all those people left and affected so many people, and so many people died from the disease and everything. So, you know, they're just not taking it seriously. Everybody thinks it's a joke. Right. You know, I think that this pandemic is something that was created to scare us, but it's not. This is for real. And when it hits home that close, you know it's for real. So, and since I'm a high-risk person,
yes, ma'am.
You know, I have to be very careful. And I see my grandkids once in a while, but not as often as I would like to because of this, you know. And my concern is the twins, you know, they were premature. So like Jeremiah has a lot of health issues. And my concern is when he comes back to school, you know, would he come in contact, or, you know, like you said, how the classrooms are going to be set up and what the situation is going to be for them when they come back, you know, and about the virtual learning. Or is that going to continue? And if it is, will there be more interaction with the students as a result of it? And how is this going to happen? But I know they do miss school dearly. They really do. They miss Mr. Cole. They miss their teachers. They miss everything about this school. They really do. And they are so anxious to get back. I never thought I'd hear Jeremiah want to come back to school. But he does, and he really does. So that's some of the things that I have concerns about, as far as them coming back to school if they do come back in August.
Right, and some of the things that was thrown out as well too, as far as saying it may be a Labor Day start. But what I can is this is the deal. I won't make any promise. What I will make promises of is that we will follow every single guideline that has been put out by the CDC as it relates to social distancing, as it relates to how the classrooms are going to be set up, as it relates to cleanliness. Now, as far as what that looks like practically, I can't say because as you see with this particular virus, it is changing every single day, and the guidelines are changing every single day. I think what my goal is as the school leader is to make sure that I'm up on whatever is coming at us so that I can kind of see what's happening. That's also the main reason for this particular meeting here, because of the fact that I need to hear from you all as far as what's going on so that I can prepare. Because whether it may be August or whether it may be September, that day is not going away. These scholars are going to come back within this building sometime or another. And as the school leader, I need to be ready for that. So I don't need to be preparing at the end of July or the first week of August. I need to start gathering data now so that we can prepare as far as what that looks like from a facility standpoint, from a disinfectant standpoint, and as far as how we serve our nutrition, everything. So everything is going to be affected, and that's why the planning for August/September begins now for me. So you can be assured that whatever is going to be best for the scholars is going to happen, and that's why we're here. And I miss those twins as well too, particularly in the morning when they get dropped off in the morning, all the energy they have.
Yes, and Hope is a hugger, so it's
Yes.
going to be hard to get her not to hug.
And the thing is too, I think it's not interrupting. I think it's also a conversation because of the fact that Hope loves you.
Yes.
For that example, Hope loves you, and I think the conversation is that she would have to understand that as much as I, Mr. Cole, love to hug her, I also love her grandmother, who may be in a high risk area, high risk category. And by me hugging you, what have you, I'm putting your grandmother at risk. I love you to death, Hope, and I want to hug you, and like we always do. But by me doing that, I'm putting your grandmother at risk because eventually, even though you say it's only once a week or whatever, they're gonna see you, and whatever that situation is not worth that risk because hopefully a vaccination will come maybe December, January, and things will get a little better for us. But until that time, I have to explain to Hope that I love you and I love your grandmother. And it's not a matter of me distancing myself from you physically because we're still connected emotionally. Just because we are socially distant, we don't have to be emotionally distant. So there's still ways that we can connect. So we're going to be creative. We're going to be creative some kind of way. Okay. Tap the feet, huh?
And her mother is even more susceptible than I am. So,
Gotcha. So we'll make sure we're safe.
So that was my concern.
Gotcha.
The safety of the students and the safety of everybody around.
And when the scholars go home, we got to make sure we're not being incubated for a petri dish for viruses that we're sending out. So we'll make sure we do everything we can.
Well, we have confidence in you.
Well, thank you.
We do, and that's why I'm here, right? I am concerned, and I'm concerned about you, and I'm concerned about all of them, not just my grandkids,
Right.
but all of the scholars.
Absolutely.
Because they interact with those scholars as well.
Yes, ma'am. And what we'll do, we will continue to have more forums like this, and I'll continue to put it out there, and hopefully we'll get more, because the thing is, what the three of you provide is good advice, is good information, but I want to hear from others as well, too, because they all have stories to tell, and they all have unique situations that I, as a school leader, have to be prepared for. My role is just to try to gather data and get prepared for what's coming, because that day is coming, and I got to be ready for it. All right? Well, I thank you all for coming. We're going to let Mrs. White know to get these nice breakfasts ready for her. She's prepared a hot breakfast. It's going to be grits. It's going to be scrambled eggs. It's going to be biscuits, sausage links. So you're going to be able to take all that to go hot. So we prepared for it. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize.
Are they gonna get like the temperature checks? Like, are they gonna go through that process?
And that's one of the easy ones because the good thing is it Mrs. Mann, Miss Shorter.
Shorter.
Shorter. I apologize. The good thing about is
Not man.
I apologize. The good thing about what we're doing now, we are already putting the foundations in place for us to get into routines of temperature checks or what have you. Like, for instance, when you came in here, you had to have your temperature check before you came in the building to make sure. Those are some of the same things we'll be doing. So we're trying to get into the habit of that now on a smaller scale so that when the time comes, so we do have 375 scholars into the building, the process is already in place.
Okay, and what if a scholar is running a high temperature? What would you guys do?
And the thing is, I think there'll be specific guidelines coming out as far as how we react when they have some of those symptoms. But I think that it'll probably be they will have to go home right away and be quarantined if they and tested. And my thought process is that this is me thinking out loud is that between now and then, the availability of testing is probably going to continue to grow. So I don't know what that looks like in terms of whether or not I'm saying that the school is going to be able to test a scholar, but even if the school can't test a scholar, if one of the scholars demonstrate one of those symptoms that are of concern, then the scholar would be able to have availability to a test a lot easier than what they do now. Because right now it is May. I predict that between now and August or September, testing is not going is going to be a lot more rapidly available for us then. So then we'll be able to have some definitive answers. So it's not just a standpoint of us just going by that temperature, which is one gauge. We'll be able to also have tests so we can actually test those scholars and make sure that they are not carrying the virus or being asymptomatic as well too.
Okay, and
Oh,
would it?
yes, there is, and I think this week I think there's testing in Bird Plaza. Let me get that date for you. What is that, Mr. Robinson? I know there's testing in Bird Plaza this weekend. It's free testing, until it's all gone.
And not to cut you off,
You good? I'm
but
sorry.
would those, if they would have to be sent home or whatever, would it just be a complete absence or would it be?
Well, one of the things that have been stressed by a superintendent during this COVID is flexibility. We will have to be, the thing is, this is, for lack of a better term, again, the new normal. So what is considered an excused absence pre-COVID is going to look a lot different now as far as what's an excused absence. Because before a fever may not be something that we consider an excused absence. Now that's totally different world we're looking at now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be totally different barometer that we're going to look at.
Okay. Um, that's about it.
Okay, no problem. Do we need to call an ambulance? Okay. I can help you out. You want me to help bring, you want to bring the car this way? What do we do? I can bring the car. You have a wheelchair before? No, just put it on a rolling chair. What about a rolling chair?
Yeah, a rolling chair would be good. Please, please. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Get that door shut.
What, honey? And turn her around. Roll backwards. Backwards. We're glad you came, Dolores. I'm glad. Okay, Valley.
You don't want anything to go? You want to take care of her? You want to get some meal? You want to get some, you mind getting her? She's going to get her to go.
Unforeseen things happen.
Yes, ma'am. That's the phone line. It is phone line. We have to be careful. So we're going to get some meals in here for y'all to go, okay? Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And we'll be here next time, too.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Are you a Title I school?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you got your agenda? You need to have a sign.
I signed in the agenda.